is so much going on in our world today that so many of us are having big feelings, big responses to what is going on. And the feelings are everywhere on the spectrum. I meet people who are excited, who are like, yes, these changes, a lot of these need to happen, do it. And then I meet people who are scared, who are like, this is dangerous, and are feeling hopeless. And so I ask, how are you feeling? And then my next question is, the identities you hold, how does that impact what you're feeling? Because often it does. And this is why this work is so important. The only way we can start to come together and hear each other throughout all of this change is if we are aware of our feelings and we understand more in depth, in a deeper way, why we're having those feelings. So for example, you guys know, I grew up with some identities that were not normalized dominant. So working class, casual English, informally educated, learning disability. And because of those identities, I wasn't always sent positive messages about those, right? And I wasn't always seen within institutions. So for example, let's use education. When I went to school, first of all, it operated very differently because it was set up normalized dominant. And secondly, then it was different for me, but I didn't feel seen and heard. And so I don't have this affection or this like institutions are good. And so let's just use, for example, right now in the current events there's this, hey, we're getting rid of the education department. We're going to, there's a part of me that has feelings of, yeah, you know what? Because of my experience, because of those identities and those identities, the experience I had in the societal system, I am okay with change when it comes to institutions. So there's a part of me like, yeah, I'm okay. Then there's another part of me though, because I've experienced other identities, like now in my adult life, upper middle class, right? Formal education. And this has allowed me employment that's allowed me to travel the world, interact with a lot of different people and a lot of institutions. I've been a part of a lot of institutions trying to change. Those experiences have given me the understanding that if you're going to change an institution, you got to really be well thought out if you want that change to be successful. So there's a part of me that's like, oh, hey, hold it. You can't just change like that. If you want it to be successful, oh, hey. And there's a part of me over here going, oh my gosh, what are we doing? And there's a part of me going, go ahead and do it. But I can see how my feelings, both of these feelings, they're both legit. I can see why I have them both because they're coming from the identities I had and how the messages that were sent to me and how the experience I had within the societal system because of those identities. Why is this important? Number one, it lets us exhale. If we do not talk about how we're feeling and understand why we're having these big feelings, we get depressed or we get stressed. Let me give you this example. I work with a lot of law enforcement, and law enforcement is a very, very hard job because I don't know of too many jobs where every second of every shift, there's a possibility you will die. There's a possibility you will get killed. So that's just an overarching stress of law enforcement. The other thing, there's numerous things, but another thing in law enforcement is many officers have to deal with all the identities all the time, and they have to go from one extreme to another. So you might get a call at a $4 million house where when you go there as an officer, you're perceived, you're getting treated very rudely. Actually, you're getting treated like less than help. They're talking at you, telling you not to walk in the room, and you can come out of there going, what the heck, right? Then you get, within minutes, you get another phone call as an officer, and now you're going to the other identities, the extreme. So we went to the extreme here with wealth. Now you're going into an apartment where there's, 11 people living, and you look around and there's no dishes, but there's a big screen TV. And again, you're expected to be effective in that scenario. And you have feelings like, holy moly, how do you have, and you don't have dishes? How do you have a big screen TV, but you don't have dishes? And we talked about this. When we see things that we don't always understand, we will often have feelings. So when we have feelings and we don't understand those feelings, we will put meaning to the feelings. We will put meaning to our feelings because we don't have understanding. So I will hear some officers, and when we don't understand what we saw, the meaning we put is often judgment. And so I would hear officers come out of that wealthy scene and go, oh, those rich, and there would be some name calling, think they can tell me what to do. And then come out of the next call that was in poverty and go, oh my gosh, who do these folks think they are? But both were full of, I'm trying to put meaning to what I just saw because I am having a lot of feelings about what I just saw. And sometimes the meaning we put is judgment. So let's be honest. Have you done that? Because I know I have. When I'm having a big feeling of, oh my gosh, we can't do this. I see people excited to take down a department. And I immediately, if I'm not processing my feelings, then I'm like, want to judge, right? And then opposite, when there's part of me that's like, hey, yeah, take an institution down, like let's reorganize it. And then when people are so concerned about it, again, if I don't process and understand where I'm coming from, then I judge those feelings and the people who are having those feelings. And so this is why this work is so important. The urgency of awareness is about, during this time, let's name the feelings we're having, because change always brings out feelings. I mean, we know this. When I have a change in my personal life, it's like, there's feelings, everything from scared to happy to joy to sad. Feelings, change in our family, change in our job. So change brings up feelings, and there's a lot of change going on in the world right now. And so we are having a lot of feelings. So go back to that season 1, that last episode where we give you that great tool about how to process your feeling. And then once you do that, also, here's the next thing. When you're having those big feelings, think about your identities. Your identities that you hold, what experiences have they given you so that you can better understand why you're having this feeling? Once we do that, that alleviates the stress. That allows, when I work with law enforcement, it's like, hey, let's name the feelings. You can't go from one scene to the next without having feelings. And like we said, if we don't name those feelings and process and get a better understanding of, ourselves, what happens then again is we get stressed. Like we go around the world just judging everybody and everything. We know it's not productive in our personal life or in our work life. So understanding why I'm feeling what I am allows us to breathe, allows us to exhale and go, okay, and it's okay to feel this way. All right, I get why I am so passionately here or here. I understand that now. And that allows us just to decompress. The next thing then is understanding and starting to process, why would someone who's having a very different feeling and reaction to this change, why might they be having that feeling? So if I can start to think about, why would someone be excited about laying off all these folks and changing this institution? If I can start to understand where their experiences and understand where they're coming from, this opens up the possibility of us to start to come together. Because what is the common thread? There's two big ones. We are all having feelings. That's the common thread. And we are all human. We are humans. And as a human, I want to be respected and listened to. And so that means I also have to offer that up. And that is what this work can allow us to do during these times, is better understand why we're having these feelings so that we can decompress and not be as stressed. And then in those breaths, in those moments, then we can start to think about why other folks may be having very different feelings than us. And understanding doesn't mean we have to agree, okay? I'm a walking contradiction sometimes, because I am feeling like, yeah, let's do this. And oh my gosh, no. no, right? I don't even agree with myself sometimes, right? Part of my brain is answering back and forth. But understanding, I want to say, doesn't mean that I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. No, understanding allows me to get in a room with someone who's feeling very different than me and hold a space to listen. Think of what that could do. If I can hold a space to listen to someone who's feeling very differently about this change than I am, then that, if they feel listened to because I'm holding that space, then when I go to talk, there's a higher chance or probability they listen to me. Now we're treating each other as humans, and we'll walk away thinking about what the other person said. That, and we all know this, that makes us the most effective, whether we're and we know this from a personal relationship. Everything I've been talking about has been at a global perspective, right? But this is true, and we know this in our individual relationships too. If you have a loved one and they view a topic and have a lot of feelings about it differently than you do, those things, if we just operate out of our feelings, all we ended up doing is defending our position and defending our feelings. It isn't until we do some work like, hey, wait a minute, why am I so passionate about this? How do my identities affect why I'm having these feelings? And then that allows us to breathe. And then we can go, hey, and why is my partner, my spouse, my child, why are they, what identities they hold, what experiences have they had that would make them so passionate on this end? Then when we come, see, that's now we're building capacity, right? We're not operating out of these big feelings. Then we can start to have a conversation where we listen. And when we listen and see someone and hear someone, they often will start to listen a little more. Maybe not as much as we want, but a little more. That's where effective change occurs. A change, and what I mean by effective change that will last, right? And we've seen this, and go back to that global perspective, we've seen it in history where people can come in and mandate things and change things, but if people aren't felt listened to during that, they're not going to uphold the change for long, right? It's long-term change happens when we do our own work, we gain our awareness, and then we start to think about where other folks are coming from, and we start to listen to each other. So take this work. As you're having these feelings, think about the identities you have, the experiences those identities have given you, and connect them to why you may be feeling the way you are. And in time, you can start to think about where someone else is coming from, so that if ever the opportunity is to meet, we can listen rather than defend our point or be reactive. This season, we're going to incorporate the feedback you've been giving us. I love doing this podcast, love being with you, and I love those of you who are giving us feedback. A lot of you are saying, hey, Jody, I like the episodes, I'm learning more, but how do I apply it in current events? So this season, we're still going to bring in people who have different experiences so that we can continue to learn about experiences that are ours or aren't ours. And we're going to do shorter episodes with just me talking about how to use our awareness in this ever-changing world that is bringing up a lot of emotions. So join us this season. I hope you enjoy the little changes we make. We're going to make some more short reels for you too, so be on the lookout for those. Give us your feedback. We always want to make sure that we are meeting where you're at, and we're building capacity. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be with, I was going to say us, but it's just me. And I so appreciate it. I hope you find this work useful as we go through these changing times. Thank you. Have a great week. And until next time.